It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of August 15th, 1997. We got 5 movies to look at today, and 4 out of 5 of them are pretty notable films. We're going to start off with the biggest new release of them all, and that is James Mangold's widely ensemble cast crime drama film, Copland. So for James Mangold, this was actually his second film as a director after Heavy came out. And the cast in this movie, as you can already see in there, you have people like Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, and also the cast that also includes Peter Berg, Janine Garofalo, Robert Patrick, Michael Rappaport, Annabelle Sciorra, Noah Emmerich, Kathy Moriarty. But the biggest name of that cast was Sylvester Stallone. And this was actually a very interesting time for him because 2 years prior, he made the movie Judge Dredd, which ended up being on a lot of people's Worst of the Year lists, including Siskel and Ebert. And there was a specific point in there that really comes into play here when you talk about this movie that came from Gene Siskel. Listen in.
Look at the camera and talk to an actor. I'm going to break this tradition right now. Okay. I know, Stallone, you probably hate my guts. You think I hate you. I don't hate you. I like your talent. I want you to use it. This isn't what you were put on Earth for. You can do this in your sleep, and sometimes it looks like that's exactly what you're doing. That's what
I mean, it's almost as if Stallone actually saw that episode and said, oh, you know what? You got a point. I'm sorry for that horrible Stallone impression, by the way, but it's at least better than my Christopher Walken impression from a couple days ago. But I digress. I guess he apparently took that notice and decided to do this. I mean, it's a different tone from what he was doing beforehand. I mean, stuff like Oscar, Stop When My Mom Will Shoot, these really, these not that great comedies, even though I really like Oscar, and these films that were just so much lower than what, lower devoid of his talents. I mean, stuff like The Specialist, and I mean, this was a chance for Stallone to really show that, hey, he's still got the potential to be that same guy that we saw him be in the original Rocky film. He took on a bigger weight gain for this. He gained 40 pounds for this, and he was basically able to showcase his acting skills. Basically, like I said, the way he did with the first Rocky movie, and the film did pretty well for him. He got a lot of praise from critics. The film was a solid box office hit, and yet Stallone at the same time said it was also bad for his career. I think he said around 2019 that he's called Mangold the best director he ever worked with, but the film actually worked in reverse. It was pretty good critically, but the fact that it didn't do a lot of the box office, again, it fomented the opinion that he had his moment and had gone the way of the dodo bird and the Tasmanian tiger. So it's really interesting to hear him say that, because really, after this movie, he didn't really have... There was a stretch where he kind of went back to what he was doing prior to this. I mean, he had that one brief gap with Ants the following year where he was voicing that, but then he had movies like, Get Carter and Driven and all these direct-to-video movies, and it wasn't until kind of Rocky Balboa in 2006 when he really got back into form. And really, it's a shame that this movie didn't get a huge amount of attention at the box office. It still did pretty well, but at the same time, it's a shame that he never really got back from that. I mean, the fact that he literally had to tell himself that his moment was pretty much over and done with, like, that's really tough to come by. And I think he's really damn good in this movie. I think he's one of the reasons why this movie stands out as much as it does. The rest of the cast in this movie is great. Keitel, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro probably has one of the best lines in the movie, where he's telling him, you had a chance to be a hero and you blew it. I mean, which is kind of like an allegory to what Stallone had been at that point. But regardless, I still think this is a really damn good movie, and probably one of Stallone's best films he's ever done. I mean, this is a really good movie, and it shows Stallone that, hey, he still has got what it takes, and you can still be that guy who can star in these action movies, and you can also still have a career where you could do these ensemble dramas like this, or even something a little more serious. And it's a shame he never really took full advantage of that. And I think nowadays he's become more to the genre films. And, this is one of those guys that in the beginning, he said he never wanted to do another superhero movie again after what happened with Judge Dredd. And look at where he's been now. I mean, he's a prolific figure in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and also in Volume 3. He was in the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one. I mean, I still think he can be a really good actor. And he still makes a lot of really solid action movies, too. Like, the Expendable movies are still very fun. The Rocky films are very good. The Creed films are good. The Rambo films are still good fun. I mean, he's had a couple of other films such as Escape Plan, Bulls to the Head. Not classics by any means necessary, but the guy still has a lot of talent. And yeah, I really want to see him go back and do more of these dramas like this. I mean, now that he's kind of done with the Rocky series, I think there's a lot of possibility with what he could still do even in his old age. I still think there's a lot of potential there, and hopefully somebody out there will give him the chance to actually go back and do stuff like this again. I mean, like I said, the movie itself is really damn good. I think it's a very solid story. The writing overall is top-notch. The cast is great. It's a really good film. It's a really damn good movie. One of the best films from '97, honestly. It's a film that I go back to a lot in recent years. I still think it's a damn good movie. It's a film that definitely should get a lot more attention than I think it does. I think it's one of Stallone's best movies, honestly. I think it's a really entertaining film, a really well-made film. I can't recommend this one enough. It just goes to show you how good of a director James Mangold can really be. I know that as I'm recording this is a week after Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny had come out, but the guy's still an incredible director. He's made more good movies than bad movies. I mean, this, Girl Interrupted, Identity, Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma, The Wolverine, Logan, Ford vs. Ferrari, and I'll even say Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is still a good movie. And this is the movie that kind of started it all for him at least. First great film from James Mangold, a great return to form for Stallone. I kind of wish that somebody would give Stallone more of a chance in these more serious roles here. I think he still got the acting chops for it. So that's Copland. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Paul W.S. Anderson. I said Paul Thomas Anderson yesterday, but honestly, Paul Thomas Anderson probably could have made this next movie a whole lot better than it actually was. I'm, of course, talking about Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill in Event Horizon. You know, when Paul W.S. Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson. It's going to happen again, watch. But when Paul W.S. Anderson talked about his love for Alien and Predator when he did Alien vs. Predator, I mean, you could tell that because almost 10 years prior to that movie coming out, he makes this film, which is basically just a retread of Alien. I mean, is a much gorier, darker version of Alien, and not a particularly good movie. This movie's not really all that great. I mean, this film really is not a good movie. I mean, you could tell that he's just ripping every single thing off of Alien. The way the ship looks, the way the ship looks exactly like Alien. The way the characters act isn't get killed off is like Alien. There's like no creative originality to this film whatsoever. It's just a massive, massive misfire on so many levels. And some may say it's because of the troubled production. I mean, Paramount did eventually come into this film and played around with it because they were scared that Titanic was not going to make its release, and they were scared that movie wasn't going to make any money either. So this cut that was originally 130 minutes was heavily cut down. This is a movie that's just a little over 90 minutes, and the end result is a very bad-looking film. It's a film that doesn't work story-wise, creative-wise, even scary-wise. You have to keep reminding yourself that this is a horror movie because there are so many moments in this movie where you see that it's a comedy. It's more of a comedy than it is a horror film, and it's trying to scare you when it's clearly not. I mean, I guess it had kind of a following because it did well on home video, and its DVD release was such a success that Paramount basically went to Paul W.S. Anderson and said, let's begin a restoration of this deleted footage that we got rid of. But most of it has either been lost or destroyed, and slowly but surely have been trying to find it. There's been a couple stills out there which probably could have made this movie a whole lot better, but I don't know. That would have been a long that would have been a real test to see if this would actually be worth even finding that material, and it would have made for a good movie anyway. I don't think it really would have, considering what this director has done since this movie's come out. This guy's not a good director. I mean, Mortal Kombat's the best film he's ever done, and maybe even Death Race 2. I mean, I like the original. I like that Death Race movie with Jason Statham a lot, but everything else, though, the Resident Evil movies, Alien vs. Predator, I mean, Monster Hunter, all these movies that he keeps putting his wife in, who's not a good actress. I'm sorry, I do not like Mila Jovovich, but I don't know, man. I just don't think he's a good director, period. I mean, this is a film that really, even if you found that lost footage there, it probably still wouldn't have saved this movie. It probably would have made given the movie a little bit of a unique edge to it, but still wouldn't have made it a great film anyway. And, yeah, that's really all I got for you on that one. Event Horizon, not a great film by any means. So, speaking of not-so-great films, let's get to the film that basically makes Batman and Robin look like Citizen Kane in comparison. Shaquille O'Neal starring in Steel. I don't think I need to show you any more about why this movie is bad, and you know what the sad part is? Shaquille O'Neal's not a bad choice to play Steel. Honestly, I mean, he's got the look for it. I mean, he's got the body type for it. I mean, this is a role that could have easily worked, but Shaquille O'Neal is really bad when he has to act in this. And I don't have a problem with Shaq at all. I think I like him in Good Burger when he's playing himself, in Scary Movie 4, and just recently in the Lego Movie. He's actually pretty funny, but for an actor that plays a role, he's not that great. There's only been one movie where he's actually been pretty good, and that was Blue Chips. And that came out 3 years prior to this. And he was good in that film, but when he takes these big budget roles like Kazam and this, he's just not good at it. I mean, take a lesson from Michael Jordan in Space Jam, because if you play yourself in a movie and it's done right, it works well. And in the 2000s, O'Neal pretty much did just that. He came around and realized that once he plays himself in the movies, he can actually be pretty good. But then again, that could be blamed on the script too, which doesn't really give him a whole lot to do. I mean, the movie is called Steel, and Steel doesn't become the hero of this. We don't see him until halfway through the movie. The film is only 97 minutes long. We spend more of the time without the title superhero, and I seriously don't get why movies do that. The title character never becomes the center of attention in their own movies. Tom and Jerry the movie, the animated one, you know, the Lorax, the Lone Ranger. If the title character isn't going to be the center of the film, don't call that movie that. I mean, just call it, I don't know, like, hey, Shaft's in here, with Steel. Like, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't treat Steel with any respect here at all. They give him a terrible-looking costume that looks like it's not made of steel at all. He has this machine gun to defeat his enemies. They give his best friend, Sparks, played by Annabeth Gish, more weapons than he has, so much so they should have made the film about her. Just call it that one, Sparks, with special guest star Steel. I mean, that makes more sense. And worst of all, they don't even get a chance to fight at all. There's literally a scene in the final climax where Steel gets captured by the bad guy. They don't tie him up. They don't take his weapons. They don't even beat him up. They just leave him there as the bad guy goes on about his evil plans. Just get your ass up and fight the guy. But no, he's just sitting there with this awe expression on his face, like as the bad guy continues his speech. I mean, it's just like, what were they thinking when they let that pass with a green light? And like I said, the rest of the cast of this movie is just wasted in here. Annabeth Gish is the only one who's actually really trying in here. She's honestly the best thing about the movie, but then again, like I said, they give her more to do than the hero does. Richard Roundtree is forgettable, and the fact that he has to use lines like that, and even stuff like I like the Shaft. Like there's a part where he has to say that too. It's just like, good lord, I thought Theodore Rex was the worst thing he'd been at this point, but no, Judd Nelson's a dumbass villain, and Ray J, that same Ray J from the infamous Kim Kardashian sex tape, is obnoxious and annoying as hell in this. Think of a young Chris Tucker, but even worse. You know, Charles Napier is wasted in here too, so is Irma P. Hall. I mean, her subplot about making a souffle gets more time in the movie than the actual superhero does. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about how bad this is. I mean, what more do I even need to say about it? The title character's not the main focus of it. Shaq's not even trying. The rest of the cast is wasted. The villains are terrible. The script is terrible. For a movie that's only an hour and a half long, it goes on forever. You could see why this film caused the crashing and burning of comic book movies and superhero films for a bit, before Marvel eventually decided, okay, let's actually do this and get people that actually know what they're doing. And it would take DC 8 years to regain some composure in the big-budget superhero movies, but not before adapting some of their more lesser-known comics and graphic novels, but with much better success, which we'll eventually delve into as we go along here. But when it comes to Steel, it's one of the worst superhero movies ever made, and it's not even close. So we've been pretty negative the last couple of films that we've looked at on here, but let's get to a more positive film, a really entertaining film. Let's talk about The Full Monty. So the trailer pretty much kind of gives you the idea of what the story is. This is taking place in the north of England during the 1990s. It follows 6 unemployed men, 4 of them former steelworkers who decide to form a male striptease act a la Chippendales in order to make some money for the main character, Gaz, to be able to see his son. Gaz in the film declares that their show will be much better than the renowned Chippendales dancers because they will go the full Monty, aka strip all the way, hence the film's title. And you know, for being a comedy, it actually tackles some heavy issues, like, you know, you see it in the trailer there. You have unemployment, you have fathers' rights, you have depression, you have impotence, homosexuality, body image, working class culture, suicide. I mean, And this is a straight up comedy. I mean, the trailer pretty much tells you it's a straight up comedy, and yet it balances out the drama really well here. You really get attached to these characters, played by Robert Carlyle, Mark Addy, William Snape, Steel Hurlson, Tom Wilkinson, Paul Barber, and Hugo Spear. I mean, these characters are so well written and so easily likable that you want to root for them. You want them to get their goal at the end of the film, which they eventually do. And the movie is really entertaining. It's a very funny film. It's a very funny film, but also a very smart film. It kind of reminds me of the first Magic Mike. Actually, the Magic Mike movies in general, which, it's hard to believe that those movies could be listed in kind of the same category that bad-mouth movies like 80 for Brady on, where it's just a girls' night out movie where they're talking more about what they're wearing and what shoes they're wearing and drinking their champagne and then not paying attention to the screen whatsoever. But when you watch the Magic Mike films, surprisingly, they actually are really entertaining. I mean, they give the ladies what they want, but they also manage to create an engaging story with likable characters in them. But then again, that's the power of Steven Soderbergh. Even with this last one that just came out recently, Magic Mike's Last Dance, which I really did not think was going to be that great whatsoever, it surprisingly was enjoyable. It was surprisingly enjoyable. I like watching Channing Tatum and Salma Hayek working off each other in that film. It was actually one of the big surprises of the year so far. Not really a great film overall. You probably won't see it on my best of the year list, but I thought that was interesting to bring that up with the Magic Mike films, because this Magic Mike was for the Full Monty, it was kind of the precursor to what Magic Mike would be for the American audiences, but this was a big hit in America as well, and it went on to become an Academy Award nominee for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Original Music or Comedy Score, which it won for Anne Dudley. And as far as the movie itself goes, like I said, The Full Monty really is an entertaining film. It's not only very funny, it's also very heartwarming. It tackles some serious issues here. It's a really damn good movie, and I credit a lot of that to the writer, Simon Buford, who went on to write Slumdog Millionaire, and a lot of really good films that came out after that. 127 Hours, Hunger Games Catching Fire, Everest, Battle of the Sexes, Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day. I mean, this is a really damn good movie, and at the time of recording this, the TV series is about to come out on Hulu, the sequel series, which I'm definitely looking forward to checking out. It's got a lot of the same people from the movie, the same writers on board here, so I'm definitely really curious to see if that's going to be good. I'm really looking forward to checking that out. But before you see that, you should definitely check it out. Actually, it's already out now. I misread this on Wikipedia, thinking it said July 14th is when it's coming out, but no, it's been out since June. So yeah, at some point I'm gonna have to check that out. So I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. But if you've seen that show and you have not seen the original film, you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not doing so. So definitely go out there and check that one out. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here, and that is Paperback Romance. So as you can tell, that was one of the last pictures that Orion had after they went bankrupt, because this thing actually came out in Australia in 1994, and the star in this, actually not the star in this, Rebecca Gibney, who plays Gloria in here, actually got a nomination by the Australian Film Institute in 1995. So this thing took 3 years to get to America, and it's interesting, this director, Ben Lewin, he didn't make another film for another 20 years, and that was The Sessions with Helen Hunt in it, which is a really great movie. Helen Hunt, John Hawkes. Can't recommend that film enough. But as far as this film goes, I don't really know too much about it, honestly, and it looks like it kind of has an interesting idea to it. This woman has polio. She ends up breaking her leg and is treated normally for the first time in her life, and she has this love interest played by Anthony LaPaglia. And I don't know, I've never seen it before. I don't really know if it's any good, but it's got some good ideas to it. The couple in here looks pretty good. Gia Carides, I did not realize, was actually Cousin Nikki in the My Big Fat Greek Wedding series. So that's another thing of note here. But other than that, though, I don't really know too much about this movie, honestly, to really delve into it. So I'll definitely check it out one day, but maybe not anytime soon. But I'm really curious about it, though. So that is a Paperback Romance. And with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. 8 movies to check out on the next episode. Again, a lot of notable films, including Demi Moore in G.I. Jane, Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen in Brett Ratner's Money Talks. We also have Mimic, the feature film adaptation of Leave It to Beaver, Greg Kinnear and Lauren Harley in A Smile Like Yours, Patrick Stewart in Masterminds, the re-release of Dirty Dancing with Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, and the animated feature Pippi Longstocking. So 8 movies to look at on the next episode, so it's going to be a long one. We'll definitely delve into those next time. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and as always, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. So, with that said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time for another episode. So until then, as always, take care.